later. Taking credit as an educator. I've been known to spit the flows and make it shaky, shaky thing. Popping, lock, and stop and let it hang. Watch us as we drop this hip-hop, it's like it stings. We make the whole room drop and everybody sing. We want the funk. We gotta have that funk. We kick it old school, we think we're so cool. We take it back to the past, we gonna act a fool. Up jumps the middle finger, make my Jaeger just...
Hello, and welcome to Sports Buzz, the Fanatical View. I am your host, Scott D. Lewis, here live in studio Comcast, Cable Channel 23, downtown Danbury, Connecticut, on this late October day. A little chilly.
Yeah, we're getting
little
ready
chilly,
for that.
but not so bad, not so bad. We thought it was going to be a little bit colder. And they thought it was going to be cold and wet last night in Fenway up there in Boston for Game 1, but it was pretty reasonable.
Yeah.
So all things considered, the weather continues to be pretty good. And let's go ahead and say hello to Mr. Bob Roth Jr.
Hello, Scott.
How you doing there, Bob? Are you doing as well as I am?
I am doing as well as you are.
The Patriots cannot ruin my day.
No, but my Giants won. I got
G-Men
something to at least sing about.
My Patriots laid an egg, or the refs laid an egg, or
I think it was more like the refs laid an egg because there was a lot of bad calls.
But the Red Sox,
yes,
one game lead early in this World Series, so things are good in my world. Of course, Bob's show, Spotlight On, Tuesday nights at 9, Wednesdays at 12 in the afternoon. Re-airs. Anything special to? We got footage of you bowling on your bowling league yet?
Yes, I have been bowling.
You should do a whole 30-minute show.
Well, we were trying to get some pictures, but it didn't quite come out too good.
I noticed that. I was looking for them. And then in the control room, Mr. Mike Toohey running things. His show, Expose Cinemas, Friday nights at 9 and Wednesday afternoons, right after Bob's show at 1 o'clock. And his Halloween special, which has been retaped.
Yes.
Does it air when? This coming Wednesday?
This Wednesday, the 23rd.
Oh, so it already did air?
Yeah.
How was it?
It was good.
Is he going to air it more than once?
You going to air it more than once?
All right, well, I saw it when it was originally done. It was a good show. Hopefully everybody caught that. And I think we got a couple of guys, some trainees in the control room helping Mike out. So if anything goes wrong with the show, Mike will just blame them.
Let's get right to it.
All right, we're live. Phone is working this week, 203-792-4101. If you want to call in, go right ahead. We can talk whatever you want, but we will start with the World Series. And last night was a doozy. It reminded me of 2004. If you remember, Game 1 in 2004, the Cardinals committed a bunch of errors.
Yeah,
the Red Sox held on to win that game 11-9. This time they did not have to hold on as they just cruised to an 8-1 victory in Game 1.
3 runs in the first inning alone.
Good start for the Red Sox. Jacoby Ellsbury against Wainwright, and Wainwright, who does not walk anybody, has great control. Ellsbury draws the leadoff walk, and then all heck busted loose for St. Louis with errors abound, misplays, the umpire trying to give them a gift on really just what was this umpire looking at that play at second base as he tried to rule right there. I mean, you have to just wonder sometimes, what are these umpires looking at? It was right in front of his face. It was clear that the player at the bag did not catch the ball, and he ruled him out as he was trying to turn 2. But they were unable to do that, thankfully, which has been the norm lately in, about probably 4 or 5 years now. Umpires huddling together and discussing it and overruling the guy, and, basically him asking for help. So they did get it right. They did get the call right, and that opened up the floodgates as Mike Napoli continued his hot hitting, and he laced the 3-run double with the bases loaded to give them that 3-run lead in the first inning. They go on to go up 5-0 after the second inning, and it could have been a lot worse as we saw Beltran at the wall there robbing Big Papi of the grand slam on a great catch by Beltran.
But
he did get hurt.
Yeah.
Bruised ribs. He came out of the game. It did turn out to be a sac fly, so that was the 5th run. But Beltran would come out of the game after that inning and not return. and he's questionable on the ride in tonight. It sounded like he was taking batting practice, and he was going to play tonight. I don't have that for sure, as they were still a game-time decision.
DH.
Maybe a DH. Good call there. John Jay, I guess, would go out to the outfield. That's probably what they would do if he is in the lineup. And there we saw Lester. And this was a big discussion this afternoon, Bob. Did you hear the talk of the foreign substance in Lester's mitt?
No, I did not hear this.
They checked his mitt. It was rosin.
Right.
The league cleared him, but there was a little controversy brewing this afternoon as they were trying to see if Lester was going to some foreign substance in his mitt. It was rosin, so no big deal. And the Cardinals did not investigate that. They did not put that claim in to have them investigate it. The manager for the Cardinals was clear on that. He said, we didn't look for it. Somebody did. Somebody saw something. They wanted to check it out, but Major League Baseball said no big deal. So no controversy really there. So the Red Sox up 1-0. They go tonight, Game 2. Lackey, last we saw him, he was earning all the chicken and beer he could want. With that dazzling performance in Detroit when the Red Sox closed out the Tigers. He was a big part of that as he outdueled Verlander there in Detroit. And he goes up against Wacha, who did his thing against the Dodgers when the Cardinals closed them out. They had to go Game 6. And, what happened to that great pitcher out there in L.A.?
Oh.
He couldn't get it done.
Oh.
Dodgers really had big trouble in that Game 6 as they got routed.
I was rooting for the Dodgers. I wanted to see Donnie
Baseball
get, at least go to a World Series, which he never got.
Not this year. Looks like he'll be back for the Dodgers next year. Yeah. There's been some, unpleasant things going on there. But they couldn't get it done. The Cardinals did beat them. So Wacha has been lights out. And this is amazing because he's only 4-1 on the year. They brought him up late in the season, Bob, this kid, and he's thrown like almost 3 near no-hitters,
right,
including some in the postseason, one against Pittsburgh. Remember the last week of the regular season, he almost did it to Washington.
Right.
So Red Sox get to face Wacha tonight in Fenway. We'll see how it goes. And we'll look at that. I did want to do a quick little history lesson here, though.
Sure.
We got some interesting history, Bob. I looked things up.
Between the Red Sox and the Cardinals?
Not just the Red Sox and the Cardinals, but the city of Boston and the city of St. Louis.
Really?
1946, it all began. Oh. Ted Williams won the MVP. The Red Sox won the AL pennant with a 104-50 record. And they went to the World Series to face the Cardinals, who had a 98-58 record. They beat the Brooklyn Dodgers, by the way, that year to make it to the World Series, to win the National League pennant to get to the World Series. Williams, of course, had just returned from World War II,
yes.
And he came back. And this was the first pennant for the Red Sox since 1918. So they had the huge drought, basically, 30 years or so.
That was the start of the curse. Well, not quite
the start of the curse of the Bambino. Yeah. You're right. So in 46, there's the 67 shot. Slow down, Mike. Slow down. 46, it was the Red Sox. So the big controversy in this was it did go 7, which every time the Red Sox have played in the World Series before their recent run of success, they always went 7, and they lost in heartbreaking fashion. And this was, of course, the mad dash by Enos Slaughter. We had that photo in there, too, I think. In the bottom of the 8th inning, when Johnny Pesky, the shortstop, hesitated on the relay, didn't see that Slaughter was going for home, and he double clutched, and that allowed him to score that go-ahead run for the 4-3 victory in the game and 4-3 series win. We'll stick with baseball history since he's got those baseball shots lined up. In 67, the Red Sox back in the World Series, and this was really the start of the modern-day Red Sox, the impossible dream, because after 46, they went on another lull where they had nothing going on. And here they came from last place to first place, much like this year, the impossible dream. Carlos Yastrzemski, who threw out the first pitch last night at Fenway, wins the Triple Crown. He is the AL MVP. And they were 2 years removed from losing 100 games. So the Red Sox were down and out. This year, of course, was also marred by the fact that Tony C., the local New England kid, was beamed in the head.
Oh, yeah.
And his career was basically over. But the Red Sox had numerous come-from-behind wins that year. They were dubbed the Cardiac Kids. And they were cardiac kids in the series against the Cardinals. Of course, Bullet Bob Gibson was doing his thing, and Lou Brock for the Cardinals in the series. But they were down 3-1 to the Cardinals in the series, and they forced a Game 7. Also, if you remember that year, Bob, to get to the postseason, they had a 1-game deficit against the Minnesota Twins,
right.
And they had to beat the Twins 2 games in a row to sweep them in a 2-game series on the last 2 games of the regular season just to make the postseason.
Right.
So they were cardiac kids, and they forced that Game 7. Bob Gibson pitches his third. That's right, 3 times, Bob, in this series. 3 complete games to break the hearts of the Red Sox, and they won that Game 7, 7-2. As his legacy was sealed as one of the greatest all-time postseason pitchers ever. And he hit a home run in the game as well to help his cause.
You know who else was playing for the Cardinals then?
Well, Lou Brock and who?
Roger Maris.
Roger Maris, there you go. The former Yankee, and probably the real, I think everybody at this point is going back to saying the real home run regular season king was 61. So that's the baseball history. Of course, 2004, he probably has that lined up as well. So we'll go right to there. We'll skip over the other stuff first and get back to it. The Sox end the curse by sweeping the Cardinals. And that set them on a stretch, Bob, where they, including last night, have now won 9 straight World Series games. Of course, they beat the Yankees that year, overcoming the 3-0 deficit. And they went on to sweep, their nemesis, the Cardinals. So it was revenge.
The Beards, right?
Yeah, well, that was the Idiots, and Johnny Damon had the Beards.
Yep.
But that was the redemption tour, breaking the curse, doing it against the Yankees, their longtime nemesis, then facing off with the Cardinals, who had broken their hearts twice, and they swept them. Of course, 2007, they swept the Rockies, and now with last night's win, 9 straight World Series wins. But that's not the only history between Boston and St. Louis, Bob.
No?
Here's some interesting basketball history. At the beginning of the Celtics dynasty, they had quite a run with the St. Louis Hawks, Bob, before the Hawks moved to Atlanta. 1957, the Celtics win their first title, and they did it in a Game 7 double overtime victory with Bill Russell leading the way. And the interesting side note was the trade that took place between the Celtics and the Hawks actually led to them getting Bill Russell. It was the first in many Red Auerbach fleecings where he put together big-time trades and got big-time players in return. So in 1957, they go double OT in Game 7. Bill Russell, of course, never lost a Game 7 in his life, I don't think, and one of the greatest all-time clutch players. 1958, they meet up again with the Hawks. And Bill Russell actually twisted his ankle, got injured in Game 2, was not the same. And in Game 6, the Hawks get their one and only first title, beating the Celtics in 58. Bob Pettit, Bob, goes for 50 points in Game 6 as the Hawks win that game. In 1960, they are back at it with the Hawks, Bob, and it's another Game 7.
Wow.
Of course, the Celtics win that one. As they are now, beginning this run of, domination over the NBA. And then in 1961, one more time, Bob, fourth time in 5 years, the Celtics had to face the St. Louis Hawks. The Hawks won a Game 7 over the Lakers to get to this Game 1 the NBA Finals in 61. The Celtics did cruise this time to a 4-1 series win. Their 4th championship in 5 years, 4th time they, it was the Hawks' Western title, 4th time in 5 years, but of course they ran up against Celtics, so they couldn't get the titles. It was the 4th time they faced them in 5 years. That would be their last trip to the finals for the Hawks, and then they have ultimately moved to Atlanta in 1968. How about some hockey history, Bob?
Sure, go for it.
You want the most famous play in the history of hockey, right,
of course,
Bob?
With Bobby Hull.
Bobby Orr.
Bobby Orr.
Against Hull was the goalie for St. Louis. The most iconic moment in hockey history, Bobby Orr flying through the air.
Yes.
He did it against those St. Louis Blues in 1970. It was the Blues' 3rd straight trip to the finals. It was the Bruins' first trip to the finals since 1958. It was the big bad Boston Bruins at that time, and they completed the sweep with Bobby Orr getting the overtime goal to end the game 4-3 for a 4-game sweep. That was the only close game of the series, Bob. The Bruins won 6-1, 6-2, and 4-1s in games 1, 2, and 3.
But we don't have no Patriot.
We, of course, have a football history as well, Bob, as the much like the Celtics beginning their dynasty against the St. Louis franchise, it was the Patriots beginning their dynasty with a little beatdown, not really a beatdown. It was an close, almost overtime, as Vinatieri kicked the field goal with 7 seconds left to win it, beating the greatest show on turf, the St. Louis Rams. Here's some other interesting side note history about this, Bob.
Okay.
James Orthwin, former Patriots owner, is a St. Louis native.
Really?
And when he had that team up for sale in the early 90s, he was threatening and trying to move the Patriots out of New England to St. Louis. Remember, the St. Louis did not have a team then.
Right.
It was later that Orthwin, after he sold the Patriots to Bob Kraft, who kept them in New England, Orthwin did become part of a group of ownership people who brought the Rams out of LA, bringing a team back to St. Louis after they had lost their Cardinals to Arizona. So, of course, the Patriots began their run there with Brady, winning. They won 10 out of their last 12 games of that year as they went on to win the Super Bowl first 3 out of 4 years. Ty Law had a big interception in that game for a touchdown return. They led 14-3 at half, 17-3 at the quarter. And in the fourth quarter, Rams did tie it with 1:30 left, and the great epic drive launching Brady into his clutch status leads them down the field. And Vinatieri, I don't know, no kicker's ever been in the Hall of Fame, Bob. What do you think?
Not yet, but anything's possible soon.
I think Vinatieri has put together quite a Hall of Fame career, and that was really the second, because of course the tuck rule was the big game against the Raiders in the snow. But it was the kick in regulation and then in overtime, Bob, that Vinatieri kicked in that game to launch them on and ultimately get them to that Super Bowl. So a lot of negative history, really, for the St. Louis. But, I mean, baseball-wise, 2-1.
Right.
Basketball-wise, down 3-1. Boston won 3 out of 4, 4 matchups. Football, the Rams had won the Super Bowl, and then they were looking for back-to-back, couldn't get it done. Patriots upended them, and now, here we go again. Yeah. Red Sox, Cardinals. Can the Cardinals get up off the mat after that poor performance? 3 errors in the game last night, Bob. 5 misplays. It really could have been 5 errors. And, they couldn't get it done they had bases loaded trying to get into the game. And double play ball by Lester.
Right.
So, which has been a theme throughout the playoffs. When they need the double play, the Red Sox have gotten it. We'll see if they can continue that Lackey Waka tonight. All right, football, Bob. I know you're excited because your Giants won.
Finally got off.
In one of the most embarrassing displays of football ever.
I know, but a win is a win, even though it was a garbage win.
Unbelievably pathetic. The ultimate Vikes turn to yikes.
Yeah.
Ouch,
They were 1-6. The Giants were 0-6.
Wow. So. Horrible display of football. They gave it to your Giants. You took it, and, you get yourself a win. Now you get to go to Philly, and then you have a bye week after that. So, maybe if you can get down there into Philly, who was bringing Michael Vick back after Foles, did my fantasy team wrong. Whew, I thought I made a good move there, slipping him into. Well, I'm in 2 leagues, as we know. The Money League, I'm cruising, Bob, 6-1, first place, sole possession. The Smack League, which, I should be more interested in the Money League, but I'm, of course, more interested in the Smack League. I started 3-0, I'm now 3-4.
Oh.
You do the math, Bob. That's 4 straight losses.
Ooh.
Not good.
No.
That vacation I took derailed me as that sent me on a losing streak. Thankfully, though, in the Money League, I am playing very well. We'll see if that continues. Patriots, Bob, speaking of not doing well, what was this debacle?
It was a
against
debacle.
The Jets. Third down's a big issue for the Patriots once again. 1 for 12, much like they were 1 for 12 in the loss against Cincinnati. How about this, Bob? If they do not get that unbelievable comeback against the Saints, the Patriots basically would have lost 3 in a row at this point.
Which is unheard of from
right. You know, Gronkowski comes back. We knew there was some concerns with the injuries to the defense, as Talib did not play. Mayo's out for the year. Wilfork's out for the year. I thought overall, really, the defense played pretty well. The opening drive, Jets go right down the field and score, and you said, uh-oh, this defense doesn't look good with the injuries. Yeah. After that, defensively, I really did think they played pretty well. They had the pick 6. They were up 21-10 at halftime. Brady gets the Jets back in the game by throwing a pick 6 of his own. Oh, that was brutal. So it's 21-17. And then the Patriots offense cannot do anything. Negative yards in the third quarter, and the Jets were playing with field position. So it wasn't a big surprise that they actually converted one of those good field position drives into a go-ahead touchdown, especially when you consider the fact that the refs allow for the offensive receiver to throw a defender to the ground. Yeah. An obvious offensive pass interference, and he goes over the top of him to get a big conversion, big long pass that got that drive going. And then inexplicably, the Patriots allowed Geno to scramble on 3rd and 17 for a crucial first down, and then he backs that up by scrambling again, and the defense is looking for somebody to cover instead of looking for a quarterback to take out.
And there's nobody.
Take the quarterback out when he's scrambling for the end zone from about 15 yards out. What are you doing? That was horrible. So that drive was shaky, aided by a bad call, non-call really, and you know, and there we saw actually as Mike got ahead of himself, but the Jets do play the Bengals this week, so that's going to be a crucial matchup for the Jets to see if they can continue this run as they now move to 4-3, second place in the division, 1 game behind the Patriots at 5-2. Of course, the big, huge play of this game, though, in overtime. You know, that vaunted Jets defense, of course, allowed the Patriots to drive right down the field and kick the game-tying field goal. Patriots could have taken the lead earlier in that fourth quarter as they, you know, had a drive that was thwarted by a penalty offensive pick play on Gronkowski, who looked pretty good in his return. They had a play that went down to the goal line, which could have set up the go-ahead touchdown. Instead, they had to settle for the field goal on a screen. They called a pick on him, which was ridiculous. So that was a bad call. And then we get unveiling of the new penalty.
Yeah.
Unsportsmanlike conduct for this, Bob? Why isn't this just like a 5-yard infraction, like an offsides or something? Yeah. You know, pushing your own player into the line.
Every year we come up with new rules that don't make sense.
The first time ever this penalty is called, it happens in overtime, that on a 56-yard, which is really a questionable decision by Rex Ryan there to go for it on that situation. Why he was, because that would have given the Patriots great field position as Folk misses the kick. But hold on a second, the refs unveil this penalty. They give the Jets 15 yards, which basically sets up the game-winning field goal in overtime. Belichick, you know, blows a gasket. There's been some banter back and forth this week as there was video produced of the Jets doing the same thing on the game-tying field goal that Gostkowski kicked. And of course, we know, as there's been other times now, as the Bills who came up with the win, the Dolphins were claiming, you know, that they did it in the game as well. So the fact that this is the first time this penalty gets called to decide a game in overtime is unbelievable. So the Jets get their win, and this is twice now, Bob. 2 of these 4 wins, the Bucs get the penalty at the final play of the game to set up a field goal for the Jets, and now this. So 2 questionable penalties at the end of games, 2 field goals given to them by refs to get them to 4-3, Bob. They head to Cincinnati, and I believe they have the Saints after that. So we'll see if they're for real here. Their defense has played well. We do know that. You got to give them credit for that. Geno's been up and down at times. The running game has been, you know, sometimes up and down. Holmes is still hurt. Winslow is still suspended. We'll see. Big game in Cincinnati. Patriots now have a big game against the Dolphins, who are reeling, losing 3 straight. They're coming in at 3-3. Patriots want to get back on the right track. So they got to get back to the running game. Ridley, who had a great game 2 weeks ago against the Saints, I don't know what Josh McDaniels is thinking. He barely gave him the ball in this game against the Jets. Commit to the kid, get him on track, balance out the offense, call passing plays in the red zone. And maybe they can get this thing going. Gronk did look good, so that's a good sign. Amendola practiced this week, and so did Aqib Talib. That's good news. We'll see if those guys can actually play. Other big games, of course, the Broncos, Bob, going into Indy, the return of Peyton Manning.
That was a beautiful ceremony, too. It was really...
And Peyton couldn't deal with it. Big game Peyton. It was like a playoff game for him. As he comes up on the short end of the stick, the Colts, big win. How about this, Bob? I say the Colts are legit. They've beaten Seattle. They've beaten San Francisco. They've beaten Denver. I don't know what much more Colts got to do to be considered a big-time team here. Those are three of the best teams in the league, and they've beaten them all. On the road, at home, no matter what. So the Colts, huge win. Your Giants now going into Philly. Philly came up lame at home. Philadelphia, I think I heard this, Bob, has now lost 8 straight home games. Is that true? Could it possibly be the Eagles?
Yeah.
How have the fans not torn the building down?
Yeah. I mean, I would have been walking.
That is unbelievable. Wow. So that's a big game. And Dallas goes to Detroit. Yeah. Detroit lost this weekend to Cincy, as the AFC has continued to play well in these AFC-NFC matchups. Some other games. Kansas City, of course, now is the only undefeated team, as they remain undefeated as they gritted out a win over Houston, 17-16, but they remain undefeated. They get Cleveland at home. Tonight's game, Carolina at Tampa Bay. Carolina is playing well. They're, playing pretty good. San Francisco at Jacksonville. This game is in London, the second of the year, Bob.
Right.
Why is there 2 games being played in London?
Why do we have to go overseas to play a football game?
I have no idea. Pittsburgh now, winners of 2 straight, heading to Oakland. The Jets need to keep their eye on Pittsburgh, and I am going to get to see an up-close personal view of Pittsburgh in 2 weeks as I see them play in New England.
Ooh.
So I'm hoping my Patriots get their act together by the time that game comes around. Pittsburgh is trying to get themselves back in the mix. Right now, the Jets are the 6th playoff team, the second wild card, and Pittsburgh's going to be trying to move ahead into that race. So we'll see. Washington at Denver. Washington got a big win, scored a bunch of points. RG3, is he back maybe after the bye week? Refreshed, looking better. They're at Denver. Manning, of course, is claiming that he hurt his ankle in this loss to the Colts. So maybe the Broncos, who can't play any defense, Bob, that'd be a huge win for the Redskins to get them back in the mix. The Monday night game, we get to see Minnesota in prime time once again. Why, I don't know, but Green Bay at Minnesota. We get to see Seattle in prime time once again, back-to-back weeks. I can never figure out the NFL schedule.
Note before we go off.
What do you got?
I went to a Westcon game last week.
Oh, yeah?
They won 70-14.
Wow, nice. It was years past that they used to get scored upon 70. So they changed leagues. They got it going. All right, we're out of here. We'll see you next week, hopefully with the Red Sox finishing it off. If not, it'll be a Game 7.
On Halloween.
See you then.